Okay, let's go through these. And before I do that, I forgot to go through my slides here. So our goals for this evening: appreciate the importance of honesty and integrity in our social, personal, spiritual relationships. Secondly, recognize areas in which our honest motivations and deeds will reap both material and spiritual benefits. So our objectives for this evening: be able to list 2 ways in which my honesty might be expressed, and then 2 motivations for me to live a lifestyle of honesty. This is based on the principles in the Proverbs. So we'll be looking at those and hopefully find answers to these things. So let's look at, before I do that, we've got 5 parts to the lesson. So we've just worked on number 1. Then we'll look at some situations that the Proverbs describe in which honesty is to be used. Then how honesty can be expressed according to the Proverbs, and then some reasons, blessings, motivation for being honest. And then if we have time, we'll look at a case study and try to make some application. All right, so let's take this first one, and I'm going to attempt something never attempted before, and that is to use, how would I do this? Use this as a blackboard up here to collect our answers. Okay, so since I can't see it at the back here, I'm going to try it up here. All right, so let's have some ways in which honesty and integrity can be expressed. Anybody? Say it again. Okay, all right, actions dealing with one another, okay. Paying your bills, hey, that's great, okay. I'm gonna have to turn around to see this because I can't read that one back there. Yeah, it's probably more trouble than it's worth, but I wanted to get the answers. Okay. And we get our we might have to abort this. Okay, actions. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give up on that. No, that's not your fault. All right. So somebody can keep tabs on these. And I can't read these little symbols up there. There we go. All right, actions and dealings with others. Somebody else had one? Say it again. As employees, Mark? Okay. All right, pay too much, pay too little. What do you do in that situation? Okay, good. Others? Okay, in marriage, need for honesty. All right. Anything else where that applies? Income tax, filing your income tax. Good. These are all great, and I wish I could write them down, but. This is old. When the cashier gives you the wrong change. Yeah. Okay. So that's a little bit like paying too much or too little, gives you the wrong change. If it's not enough, we would probably usually speak up. If it's more than we're owed, that's a test of honesty, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah.
They might see you, do lots of things like that.
Okay.
Maybe try to get an advantage over somebody that you shouldn't try to get an advantage over.
Okay. Yeah, they catch on, don't they? They see what you're doing, and if we want them to be honest, then we've got to be honest, don't we, in terms of our dealings with others. Okay? All right, so those are all good. I wish I had them written down so we could look at them at the end, but I don't, so we'll try to remember those. So the second point here on your lesson sheet is to look at some situations affected by honesty using some of these proverbs. So let's look at these together. and see if we can come up with these answers. Proverbs 3:29, do not plan evil against your neighbor who dwells trustingly beside you. Where is the honesty in that proverb? There are lesson sheets at the back if you don't have one. Okay, yeah, trusting is the key. Dwells trustingly. In this case, who's trusting? It's the neighbor. Okay, what are you not to do? Okay, don't take advantage of him when he trusts you. Do any of you have neighbors? Do you have a decent relationship with your neighbor? Does your neighbor ever do any favors for you, or do you ever do your neighbor some favors? Do you ever say something like, well, we're going to be gone for a couple of days. Could you kind of keep an eye on the house? You know, all sorts of things that we might say. So here's a neighbor that lives next to us, and the way I stated it here is we don't want to be taking advantage of the neighbor, do we? Especially if they trust us. So I think we would all think, well, I wouldn't do that, and hopefully we wouldn't, but here's one of the Proverbs. And you think about those people living together. If your neighbor trusts you, don't be planning evil against him. All right, let's look at the second one at Proverbs 11:13. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Where is the honesty in that one? Yeah, trustworthy in spirit. Okay, so where's the good or the bad here?
You're entrusted with something that is not supposed to be, public knowledge, possibly.
Okay, where might you be in a situation where you're trusted with some knowledge? Bank? Okay, you would know that, wouldn't you? Or some other situations?
Preacher's relationship with
Okay, and maybe preacher with another member, maybe one member with another member. And there's some things said. Maybe it's just a friendship. And so there are things shared that you don't necessarily want shared with the entire group. So he says, whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets. So here is someone who gets information, dispenses information, versus the one who is trustworthy in spirit, and he keeps a thing covered. So that confidentiality would be in personal interactions, maybe different relationships. We talked about some of those earlier, didn't we? Marriage, might be some other situations in which that applies. Okay, good. Letter C, whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered. The people curse him who holds back grain, but a blessing is on the head of him who sells it. Okay, this one's maybe a little harder to detect. Anything in there that might be deceptive or dishonest?
It seems to me there's selfish dealings involved. Someone that's greed, maybe you have a greed, you hold it back.
Okay. Holds back grain. What might that be? What's the situation where that might take place? Pardon me? Say it. I'm sorry.
scales and balance.
Okay, scales and balance. Okay, good. Yes. Okay. You got a commodity, and so you hold back on it in order to get more money. Which, is that necessarily a dishonest kind of dealing? Don't people do that today in the marketplace? Okay. Maybe the key here is don't do that if what? If maybe if it hurts somebody, or if you've made an agreement previously to say you do it and now you're holding it back even though you said you would do it. And how is that contrast? What's the first part of the proverb telling us? Yeah, don't be greedy. In fact, do what? Yeah, be generous. So generosity as opposed to greed. In fact, almost the entire proverb has to do with giving and sharing and helping, selling. So using the needed resources, others need it, and using it maybe because you made an agreement, or maybe just because you need to be generous in what you have. All right?
The generosity is not never given, but just selling what you promised to sell.
Okay. Yeah, and actually verse 24, if you go back one verse, it reads, one gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. So it's like if you're going to try to hoard things up, you're going to suffer in the end. Whereas if you're willing to give, you're probably going to receive as a result of that. All right, letter D. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So where's the dishonesty or honesty in there?
If I'm on the scale, you're selling something.
Yeah. Both sides here, false balance and just weight. So doing it fairly, honestly, doing it unfairly, dishonestly, is the difference between those two. And probably most of that would have application in the marketplace, buying and selling that's taking place, transactions that are going on. So business transactions, personal transactions. Anybody ever sell anything on eBay, Facebook? No. We sold a shredder the other day. And we've had that shredder for several years, and we've shredded a lot of leaves, but I'm done shredding leaves. And so it sat there for about a year, and Levon put it on Facebook. And how many calls did we get, or how many? Yeah, lots. And so the first person who finally came to look at it, and I had tried to start it to make sure it was still working. It was still working. And then when Levon said she's on her way, I remembered, oh, you know what? That gas tank that sits on the top of that thing had come off. It had shaken loose. And I thought, I better go check that. So I went out there, and she had come in, she was looking at it, and yeah, it started up, but then I just lifted the gas tank off it. And if you know shredders, they go like that the whole time. No way it's going to stay on there. So I said, look, this is not the way it's supposed to be. So do I tell you what happened? She said, well, I'll take it. We can probably fix that, whatever. So I said, okay. Less money, but she took it. Okay, so, there are a lot of situations like those in which we're dealing with people, and that honesty plays a part, certainly can. So if we look at those situations, dealing with our neighbors, being something in confidence, resources we might have, transactions, those really affect some of the different areas in our lives: community, our neighbors, personal relationships with each other, using our resources, and then just, transactions back and forth, and we've already mentioned some of those. So think of those different areas in which honesty is going to apply, isn't it? And it has a part in the way that we deal with others, what they think of us, how we deal with them. All of those things are involved. So let's go on to number 3. We talked about how can honesty be expressed. Let's look at what the Proverbs say about some of those situations. And obviously there might be some that are different from what we experience thousands of years or hundreds of years later. But let's look at what he writes about this. Letter A, well, actually we're going to match these, okay? So you have 5 Proverbs, A through E, and then down at the bottom you can see there are 5 different descriptions. So let's just do these together and see if we can pick out which one matches which description. So Proverbs 17:4, an evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives ear to a mischievous tongue. So again, where's the honesty or dishonesty here? Okay, he's hearing, and what might he be hearing? Yeah, it says a liar. Somebody's lying and gives ear to a mischievous tongue. So this is interesting because it's the liar who's listening. And what's he listening to? He's listening to a mischievous tongue, suggesting what? Yeah, okay. Really trying to spread trouble, aren't they? And so that's what the liar's listening to. An evildoer listens to wicked lips. So which one would this match here? Yeah, number 4, listening, giving ear to evil. So that's not necessarily us speaking evil, it's listening to someone who might not be telling the truth and maybe having to judge whether it is the truth or not. All right, the second one here, Proverbs 3:29, is the one we looked at a moment ago. Do not plan evil against your neighbor who dwells trustingly beside you. Now, do you see one of those other choices that would fit with this one? What's this one getting at in terms of expressing something? Or maybe not really having expressed it much. Yeah, number 1, Derek says, harboring evil intent. So this is really getting at someone who trusts me, and yet what are my motives? What am I thinking of? What am I planning? And okay, so it's yeah, very much so. So you are taking advantage of them, aren't you, when you do that? Okay, Proverbs 16 is interesting to me. Actually, 4 verses here, and let's look at each of them. A worthless man plots evil, and his speech is like a scorching fire. A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisper separates close friends. A man of violence entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that is not good. Whoever winks his eyes plans dishonest things. He who I made this mistake before. He who purses his lips brings evil to pass. Okay, any evidence in there of dishonesty? Do you see anything in there that describes someone being dishonest? Okay. Planning dishonest things, and it actually describes, verse 18, a dishonest man. Okay. What results from that's being done? What are some of the effects of that? Yeah. Okay. And first of all, what I spotlighted here is look at the different individuals mentioned. A worthless man. Now, what would we think of in terms of a worthless man? Okay, up to no good. You know, I think of maybe like a sluggard. He's just not putting out any effort. He's worthless in that sense. Okay, so he might be up to no good. He might be more like a lacking diligence. Then you've got a dishonest man, so that's one of the things we're looking at. What about a man of violence?
Violence, especially man of violence, implies forcefulness.
Yeah.
Forcing someone to follow or do something that they would maybe not ordinarily do.
Okay, so when you think of violence, maybe you think of physical harm that's being done, but if you back away from the physical harm itself, what might he be doing that would be forceful? Yeah, somebody threatening somebody? Yeah, okay.
10 or 11-year-old because that's what they do.
Yeah,
And they were recruited when they were 10 or 11.
okay.
So they cause this kind of violence. Everyone's told the child, don't do this, stay away, and now it's upon them.
And he might even use those children to do his bidding in different areas
Of course,
and get them to operate for him.
it's part of organized crime in big cities now because there's different laws, so like we should not of age.
Okay,
They won't have persecution of someone who is 18 or 19.
all right,
So they'll use the younger ones.
okay. What about this last one? Whoever winks his eyes. That one doesn't seem to fit with the other three, does it? Okay, okay. Being very subtle about something. If you're winking the eye at someone else, what's the indication there? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, kind of you know something on the inside that others may not know, and then he talks about pursing the lips. I looked at some of the other translations of this, and here's some of the different ideas. Winks, shuts his eye, narrows his eyes, purses his lips, compresses his lips, lips are moving, smirking, okay? So it's just this idea that, you know, you and me know something, and maybe something else is on, and so others are not aware of it. What's the effect? What's the result of these different individuals? Yeah, look at some of the expressions. That's why the Proverbs are so great. His speech is like a scorching fire. What's the picture? Yeah, I mean, think about that terrible fire out in California, and it was just scorched earth, wasn't it? Well, here's someone who is worthless, plotting evil, and that's the path of destruction he leaves behind him. Separates close friends, spreads strife. So discord among those around. Maybe good relationships, but then he comes and poisons the well, doesn't he? Leads him in a way that is not good. So having an influence upon him. All those things resulting from these. And let me ask this question. Are these four different men? Or could be the same person in different situations acting in this way. Could be combinations of these. All right. So up to no good is what we had, number 3 for that one. All right, a couple of others. Proverbs 23, 6-8. This is another one that's interesting. And it's really jumping in right in the middle. It says, do not eat the bread of a man who is stingy. Do not desire his delicacies. For he is like one who is inwardly calculating. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. You will vomit up the morsels that you have eaten and waste your pleasant words. Okay, what's going on here? What's the expression of dishonesty first? Well, and it says, okay, yeah, he's inwardly calculating. He's feeding you these delicacies. Maybe you've never had them before, and you're impressed by them, and what's he doing? The wheels are turning inside his head. Yeah, buttering you up. You manipulate him. He says, eat and drink. But his heart is not with you. So he's plotting evil against you. And if you back up, it's kind of interesting what precedes this. Listen to the rest. When you sit down to eat with a ruler, observe carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat. If you are given to appetite, do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to desist. When your eyes light on it, it is gone, for suddenly it sprouts wings, flying like an eagle toward heaven. So here is someone who is a ruler, wealthy, is serving you his finest. Maybe you've never had that before. You're sitting at his table, and the writer of Proverbs says, you be careful, because he's trying to take advantage of you. Which of those would this one fit at the bottom there? Okay. Dining on the delicacies of the rich. Anything like that in our world today? Anything like this?
You can make a lot of money if you do dishonest work. And someone may offer you a job doing something dishonest, and you might be paid a lot. I mean, this is think of drug dealers. Why do young people occasionally think about doing that? It's because, you know, if they get a regular job at McDonald's, they're making $10 an hour, and here they can make $50 or $60 an hour. I mean, it's not exactly what this is saying, but I think the idea is someone will butter you up and say, look what you can do if you hang around us. And that's the problem.
It's easy to be impressed, right?
Yeah, okay,
Be outward, and you can let that go to your head.
okay.
I want this too.
You know, have you ever had an invitation to some place that's, you know, it's a level above what you're accustomed to? And it can be impressive, can't it? And I think what the writer is saying is you be wary of what might be happening here. In fact, you know, that idea of hold a knife to your throat. Be careful, because you don't know what someone might be doing. So if someone throws money around, tries to impress you, and they can make some inroads that they wouldn't otherwise. Rick?
So, in my past, there was a time where I would be going to dealerships, truck unions, huge operations, and you could always tell sort of the way the owner acted, and you could tell how the business was going on. So you go to one, and I was always someone they did not want to see, because I was usually preceding closing their operation.
Okay.
And so there was one, though, that everyone loved him and kept talking about him. And I couldn't figure out why. Well, it was because he would routinely walk in and hand out $100 bills. Okay.
Okay.
Certain people, oh, you did this, okay. You give him a $100
Yeah.
bill. He would just every day be handing out $100 bills. Well, eventually you find out that he was hiding stuff and so on.
Okay.
So that's kind of the idea here.
All right. So a lot of different instances in which that sort of thing can happen when corruption takes place. All right. Finally, we've got the last one here. Do not envy a man of violence, and do not choose any of his ways, for the devious person is an abomination to the Lord, but the upright are in his confidence. So again, taking confidence from someone who is devious, or envying a man of violence. Here's somebody that seems to get things done. Yeah, he kind of strong arms people to do it, but isn't it impressive? And don't be impressed by someone who is using such means in order to accomplish what he does. All right, so there are our principles. We've kind of matched them up there. So if we think about those expressions, harboring evil intent really has to do with motive, doesn't it? What's a person's motive? Impressed by the unscrupulous, talks about the influence of evil, persons up to no good. And, when we looked at all those situations, what happens is you've got this chaotic environment that ensues. Strife separates friends, all sorts of problems that arise. And then in terms of listening and giving ear to evil, how we use our speech, we talked about that earlier. And then putting pressure on someone. And when you add those things to the situations where we're trying to be honest, well, right there in the middle, we've got our motives and our speech, and we're even listening to others, but that's all operating in this culture in which these other things exist. So we've got to be careful. We've got to beware. Okay, last of these, number 4, the blessings or motivation for honesty. So what's to keep a person trying to do what's right and trying to be honest and trying to deal honestly with others? So again, let's take a couple of minutes here, and I'm going to let you look through and do as many of these as you can on number 4 there. Just jot down over on the right-hand side. Let's take about 3 minutes here and see if you can come up with some ideas over there on the right-hand side. Motivation or blessing in being honest. Okay, let's go through these. What about letter A? Somebody who hasn't answered yet. Yeah. His secret counsel is with the upright. Is that what it says? And that's verse 32 of Proverbs 3? Okay. Yeah, could be. Anybody else get anything else for letter A? Any motivation in either of those proverbs for being honest? Okay. In his confidence, and wasn't there another one? Those who act faithfully are his delight. So it's really pleasing him, isn't it? Okay. So say it again, John. What did yours have? Secret counsel with the upright. So that's his confidence. His secret counsel is with the upright. We might question as to how exactly that happens. Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
The word confidence literally is with faith, so with trust.
Okay.
The translation that John was citing is just kind of the opposite of that. Another way of saying that.
So you're transacting something, but it's done with trust. Interesting book by Stephen Covey, the son, called Speed of Trust. And guess what he says happens when you have trust between businesses that are interacting with each other? It goes better. When you can trust the other company, the other party, things accelerate, and it's to everybody's advantage. Okay, so abomination on the one hand, but confidence and delight on the other. What about letter B? What's the motivation or the blessing? Yeah, okay. Momentary versus something that's going to last. Okay? Immediate crisis, you act a certain way because you're under the gun, but what's the long-term effect? And so he says here, truthful lips endure forever. You'll never go wrong that way. Letter C, and I think the rest of these have to do with a false witness, more of a trial situation, maybe bringing a charge against someone. But anything in here about a blessing or a motivation? This one's almost the opposite of something that's stated here. Yeah, avoid punishment. Judgment is coming one way or the other. You're going to be punished. You're not going to escape. And so if you act in a true way, you're a true witness, a witness who speaks truth, then it's going to serve you well. Letter D, a truthful witness saves lives, but one who breathes out lies is deceitful. What's kind of the added element here? Okay. And it actually says saves lives, so I ask, whose life is being saved here? Okay, the innocent person is being saved. Might be somebody else too in addition to that. What's that? Yeah, the truthful witness. He's telling the truth, so that's good for him, isn't it? So advantages both ways. All right, letter E, a worthless witness mocks at justice, and the mouth of the wicked devours iniquity. What happens when you start getting witnesses that don't tell the truth? What's going to happen to the legal system? Is that going to be good for things? Yeah, it deteriorates. That chaotic environment we're talking about. And you can't really trust anyone for what they're saying. And so more and more iniquity and injustice results. We could think of some examples. We don't have time. Letter F, be not a witness against your neighbor without cause, and do not deceive with your lips. Anything in addition here? This one's maybe not as clear. I had being honest in your character. Your character is going to serve you well. Yeah, integrity. Being that kind of a person is going to be helpful. Yeah. And it's interesting, if you read that account, one of the notes in the commentaries was, I think it's Jezebel that says, go get 2 worthless men to bear false witness. So there's that term worthless that we saw earlier. Okay? Yeah. They're there, aren't they? Unfortunately. All right, so good and bad. Good on the left side, bad on the right side. And so the overall effect of that, so here's this situation. If you've got these things on the left-hand side, people telling truth, acting honestly, it's going to improve things, isn't it? Versus if you have the opposite of those things, you're going to have more and more trouble. And so kind of a place to end here is, here we are in the middle, and our actions, in addition to our thoughts and our motives and our speech, plays a part in this, and we're trying to shine our lights and be of an influence to others. And so we started out with some areas in which that might take place. Businesses, employer, employee, neighbors. What about our families? Immediate family, husband, wife, parents, children. Yeah, okay. Okay. Extended family. Do any of these principles play a part in the extended family? What about the church? Our relationships with each other. And then our own spirituality, talking about deceiving ourselves, trying to be truthful with ourselves, and trying to seriously and honestly look at ourselves. Okay, we'll have to stop there, but those are some applications. I'm going to skip the case study, which was really good. We didn't get to go through it. All right, 2 ways in which any honesty is expressed, or my honesty could be expressed. Anybody remember? Motives, speech, actions, giving advice to others. 2 motivations that we just talked about. Okay, avoid punishment. The obvious one is pleasing God, okay? A lot of those that we could come up with. All right, so that's a look at honesty. I think Rick is going to speak next week. And some of these are going to overlap. I think it's hard to avoid, but at any rate.